Have you ever wondered what truly reveals a person's soul? Not their words, not the mask they wear in public, but something deeper, something unmistakable. In the wide, complex theater of human life, we are constantly surrounded by individuals cloaked in identities shaped by society, personal ambition, and circumstance. These facades, polished and convincing, can be difficult to pierce. Yet, hidden behind them is the unfiltered truth of a person's character. For centuries, Zen and Buddhist teachings have offered a path to clarity. They teach that the soul is not found in speeches or appearances, but in moments when the guard drops, when someone holds power, or when life strikes them with adversity. As an ancient Zen proverb reminds us, a person's true nature is not spoken. It is shown. So, how do we truly see someone for who they are? The answer, as passed down through generations of Zen wisdom, is surprisingly simple. Watch how they behave when they are in control, and how they respond when everything falls apart. In a peaceful monastery tucked amid whispering trees and still air, a group of disciples once gathered around a renowned Zen master known for his deep insight into the human psyche. With calm eyes and a steady voice, the master began to share a parable, a story meant to illuminate the hidden truths of human nature. There was once a traveler, the master said, a man who wandered far and wide in search of understanding. Though he met many, though he listened and observed, he remained unsettled. He could not tell the difference between people's masks and their real selves. So, he climbed high into the mountains to find a sage, a man said to see through illusions. The sage, serene and perceptive, welcomed the traveler and listened with quiet patience. "Master," the traveler asked, "how can I truly know a person? Words lie, appearances fool. What, then, can I trust?" The sage smiled knowingly. "Observe two things," he replied, "how a person behaves when they hold power, and how they react when life tests them. These moments strip away all disguise, revealing the core." To drive this truth home, the sage shared examples. Imagine a man who suddenly gains great authority. What does he do with it? The sage told of a young man who inherited leadership over a community. At first, he preached fairness and justice. But over time, the power twisted him. He craved admiration, silenced opposition, and surrounded himself with flattering voices. In contrast, another leader in a similar position chose a different path. With humility, he listened to his people. He led with compassion, made decisions rooted in wisdom, and used his influence not for self-glory, but to nurture peace. The disciples sat in silence, absorbing the contrast. One finally asked, "Master, why does power expose a person so clearly?" The sage answered, "Because power doesn't change who we are. It unveils us." Picking up from the sage's profound teaching, the disciples leaned in, eager to understand more. If power unveils the heart, what happens when life takes that power away? When struggle arrives uninvited? The master, sensing their curiosity, gently shifted the lesson toward its second great test, adversity. When we are no longer shackled by the need to impress others or live up to expectations. The sage explained, our authentic values and deepest desires emerge. True character isn't always visible in comfort. It reveals itself in how we treat those who hold no power over us. Those society deems unimportant, do we offer them respect? Or disregard? Then he paused, his gaze softening, but even more revealing. He continued, is how we behave when life grows hard. The test of adversity, he said, strips away all pretense. A person's reaction to hardship exposes the resilience or fragility of their spirit. Some crumble under pressure, lashing out or sinking into self-pity. Others, though wounded, rise with grace, showing compassion, patience, and quiet strength. To bring this lesson to life, the sage shared the story of two individuals who experienced the same sudden calamity. Both lost their fortunes overnight. The first man allowed rage and blame to consume him. He cursed his fate, blamed those around him, and fell into bitterness. The second man, though equally heartbroken, embraced the situation with a calm heart. He worked steadily to rebuild, helping others who also struggled, showing that pain can sometimes lead to purpose. Adversity is fire, the sage said, and fire burns away all illusion. Anyone can seem kind and noble when skies are clear. But when storms strike, the soul's true light, or shadow, is revealed. The traveler, deeply moved by the parable, took these teachings to heart. As he continued his journey, he became an observer, not of words, but of behaviors. He looked for people in moments of power and pain, eager to understand their truest selves. In one village, he met a smiling merchant who spoke sweetly and seemed generous, until he was given authority over a team of workers. Suddenly, the mask dropped. The merchant became cold and commanding, barking orders and demanding perfection, offering no support or gratitude in return. Later, in a remote field, the traveler encountered a humble farmer whose entire crop had just been destroyed by a violent storm. The man had little to offer, yet he invited the traveler to share what little food he had left. Adversity, the farmer said with a smile, teaches us to find strength not in anger, but in kindness. That moment stayed with the traveler. Over the years, he gathered hundreds of such encounters, and when he finally returned to the sage, he bowed with deep reverence. "Master," he said, "your wisdom changed how I see the world. In power and in pain, I have witnessed the truth of countless souls." The sage nodded with warmth in his eyes. "Then you have learned well," he said, "but remember, this wisdom is not a weapon. It is a light, meant to guide, not to judge. Understanding character allows you to embrace those who uplift you, and gently step away from those who bring harm. For power," he added softly, "does not corrupt, it uncovers. And adversity? It purifies. Just as the lotus blooms in the mud, yet remains unstained, so too does the soul reveal its purity only when tested by life's darkest waters." Building upon the sage's timeless teachings, the traveler came to understand a powerful truth: adversity, like sunlight and fire, reveals the soul's texture, its cracks, its strengths, and its ability to endure. It tests not only how we act, but how deeply we've rooted our wisdom and values. Adversity, the traveler once told a young listener, does not create character, it reveals it. A strong spirit meets hardship with courage and clarity. Like a tall tree swaying but never breaking in a storm. A weaker soul, however, may yield to bitterness, blaming others, avoiding responsibility, and retreating into fear. Buddhist wisdom tells us that suffering is not punishment, but polishing, Just as friction smoothens a stone, hardship refines the soul. Each scar left behind is not shameful, but a mark of growth. Then came the third great teaching, observation without judgment. Zen does not ask us to become critics of others. Instead, it invites us to witness, to see deeply and clearly, without attaching labels or blame. This clarity isn't meant to condemn, it's meant to guide us toward wiser, more compassionate choices. As a Zen principle reminds us, the leaf floats gently on water. It neither resists the current nor sinks beneath it. Years passed, and the traveler, having seen the world through these enlightened lenses, began to teach others. The lessons he had once received became gifts he now offered. One day, a young seeker approached him with curiosity and concern. "Master," he asked, "how can I protect myself from people who hide behind masks? How do I shield my peace from their hidden natures?" The traveler paused, and then shared a parable. Once, there were two birds. One was an eagle, bold and powerful, soaring over peaks with fierce pride. The other was a sparrow, quiet and grounded, content in the beauty of morning sunrises and gentle winds. The sparrow admired the eagle, but never wished to mimic it. Instead, it built its nest in a place the eagle could not reach, a quiet sanctuary of peace. In life, he continued, you cannot always change the nature of others, but you can choose where to build your nest. Surround yourself with those who lift your spirit, and take care to avoid those who disturb your peace. The young seeker nodded slowly, absorbing the message. He began to see that protection didn't come from confrontation, it came from conscious choices. Wisdom was not in controlling others, but in managing who we allowed into our space. As the traveler continued to share, he offered 4 guiding principles to live by. First, choose your relationships wisely. Look not at words, but at how people behave when they are powerful, and how they endure when life turns against them. Humility and resilience speak louder than promises. Second, protect your peace. When someone's energy drains you, or their actions reveal a troubling character, set firm boundaries. Let go without hatred. Your inner calm is worth guarding. Third, strive to be an example. Know that just as you observe others, they are also observing you. Respond to power with kindness, and meet difficulty with grace. Be the person you seek in others. And fourth, cultivate compassion, even when someone falls short. Remember, everyone is walking their own path, carrying unseen burdens. Your understanding can be a bridge, not a weapon. The traveler's voice was calm, but steady, carrying the weight of experience and the gentleness of wisdom. His students listened, not just with their ears, but with their hearts. And so, the lesson lived on. Observe without judgment, protect without fear, love without attachment, and grow through every trial. As the traveler continued to share his wisdom, he found himself often returning to the quiet monastery where it all began. The sage who had once opened his eyes to the truth was now older. His hair silver, but his presence as serene and powerful as ever. On one particular visit, the sage, with a gentle smile and voice softened by time, offered one final gift. Do not stop at observing others. The sage said, his gaze steady, turn that same gaze inward. Ask yourself, how do I act when I hold power? How do I respond when life tests me? Those questions struck deep. The traveler, now a master in his own right, stood silent as the weight of the words settled into his soul. It became clear that the greatest journey was not in deciphering the hearts of others, but in uncovering one's own. The real challenge lies not in the masks we spot around us, but in facing the subtle masks we wear ourselves. When you become the virtues you seek in others, the sage continued, you no longer need to search. The world reflects your peace back to you. This, the traveler realized, was the heart of all wisdom. To walk the path was not only to see clearly, but to become clear. The teaching of the two mirrors, one's actions in power and reactions in adversity, remained etched into his being. It wasn't just a method of understanding others. It was a compass to navigate every relationship, every fleeting conversation, every inner dialogue, from loved ones to strangers, from external chaos to internal turmoil. It served as a guidepost toward truth. Zen and Buddhist philosophy teach us that life itself is a mirror. When we observe others with a clear, non-judgmental heart, we begin to see patterns, choices, and truths unfold. But when we observe ourselves with honesty, humility, and silence, we draw closer to enlightenment. As the story neared its end, the disciples seated before the Zen master sat still, their eyes wide, their breaths soft. Something within them had shifted. The teachings had not just touched their minds, but awakened something deeper. The master rose slowly and looked around. Do not rush to judge, he said, for judgment clouds understanding. Observe gently, without attachment. Act with wisdom. In the stillness of your heart, you will know the truth, not just of others, but of yourself. And with those final words, he bowed. The disciples returned the bow, their hands trembling slightly, not with fear, but with reverence. They left the monastery not just enlightened, but transformed. They carried the lesson with them like a lantern, ready to light their path through the maze of human experience. In the end, the teaching lived on, not as something to memorize, but as a way to live, a path of stillness, awareness, and clarity, a Zen mind in motion. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, please subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a moment of reflection. And if there's a topic you'd like us to explore next, share it in the comments below. Until then, walk gently and live with mindful awareness.